And welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather. I'm your host Dan, aka smAsho, and there is too much stuff to cover, no screwing around. We're looking at the sun here in 193 angstroms. First of all, large active region in the north central portion of the solar disk. Gigantor coronal hole rotating out of the Earth-facing zone now. And we should see the coronal hole wind stream that's been causing the geomagnetic storms to subside pretty soon. Some incredible high-res images of things. We'll be talking about frightening lightning and all kinds of other stuff. As well as crazy magnetism. Let's talk about solar particles for a quick moment. The main output from the solar wind is hydrogen nuclei. That makes up about 85% of both cosmic rays and indeed solar output. The rest of that is helium, electrons, and a tiny bit of heavy elements. And if you want to read about that, look up solar particle event. There's an article on Wiki about it. But I wanted to redirect you to HZE ions. So that's this is what's causing the geomagnetic storms, folks. These things are coming in right now around the ionosphere layer at about 600 kilometers per second. And, many people don't seem to realize that the sun is the primary source of cosmic ray flux. And there are heavy elements in there also. So just like galactic cosmic rays, about 80%, if not more, of the solar wind is made of hydrogen nuclei. And not only are they traveling at a very high speed, but they're also ions, which means they really want an electron. And so not only do they cause particle showers by ionizing other elements when they strike into them, but they also really want an electron. And we see all kinds of particle showers, light emission, and so on created, such as the auroras from those impacts. Let's take a look out at Lagrange point 5 for a moment here at stereo A. So at stereo A, we've got some interesting phenomenon kicking off. And we see a coronal mass ejection on the far side of the sun and a little bit of building up on the Earth side of the sun as well. So there's an image of that the last couple of days, going back to the 28th September. And we see a coronal mass ejection kick off in the non-Earth facing region out here. And we also see a building plume here. Now this could be an indication that a coronal mass ejection is going to happen in the Earth facing zone. And we'll keep an eye on it, which is part of what the channel does. Thanks again to our patrons who get alerts before everybody else. It's patreon.com/smAsho. Next, we're going to take a look at the 171 angstroms view here with the composite magnetogram inserted on the image. First, allow me to close down my marquee to get slightly better visuals. And there you have the last day at 171 and the magnetogram. And all of that interaction there between those two different polarity active regions. The difference in polarity is what's causing all of that magnetic arcing to happen. And if we were expecting to see big arcs, they would go across a solar equator like this. We're not seeing them right now. There is some filamentary behavior also. We'll get to it after this plays one more run. Way too much stuff to cover. No time to screw around. And here are some custom Helio viewer movies. Allow me to vanish. There's 94 angstroms. And by the way, we've been seeing some communication breakdowns here during this geomagnetic storm. Some people getting confused and thinking it's a cyber attack and so on. And while there could be cyber attack components in there, minor communication breakdowns are very likely a result of both an electron storm and a geomagnetic storm caused by incoming protons all at the same time, folks. So we've got lots of protons, we've got high-speed protons and lots of electrons. In other words, we've got very energetic Van Allen belts going on right now. Here's the 171 angstroms. My personal favorite. Shows you some great arcing there in the northern hemisphere of that local yellow dwarf there, sometimes referred to as the sun. And last but not least, we've got this great view here in 304 angstroms, which has got a significant filament here up in the northeast. And it's just going to be right in this area right here. Very large filament hanging out there. And that could be what we're seeing on stereo A, as this is very hard to see what's going on from a three-dimensional perspective when looking at a two-dimensional image from the SDO, which, by the way, is located at Lagrange point 1, if you're wondering where SDO is located. SDO is actually located around here, near where the Discover's located. It flies its own figure 8 sort of pattern. And again, there's that 304 angstroms view. Great view of that coronal hole leading that plage. Significant coronal hole there. And here's a close-up of that plage from the 29th. Quite a great image there, courtesy of Tosi Felipe. He's inserted the Earth for scale in there. You can see that one plage, very similar in size to the Earth right there. You can find that at spaceweather.com. The radio flux is at 73, and we're seeing a bunch of NASA sites that are down right now during this period of geomagnetic unrest. And by the way, we are streaming live to Twitch right now. If you're wondering the website, it's twitch.tv/smashamash, twitch.tv/smashamash. We love the platform, and so we use it on the regs. And there's your KP index chart for the past 3 days. We've sunken down off of several bouts of geomagnetic storms here, back into a KP of 4, just geomagnetic unrest. And I wouldn't be surprised to see that subside throughout the next 24 to 36 hours. We don't see any major solar flares. There's the X-ray flux chart. And the proton flux is not loading. There we go. And there's the GOES proton flux. And keep in mind, folks, these are all measured at the ionosphere layer. Do we have the real-time solar wind? That is the real question. While that loads, I'll check the life of the stream, see if we have any chats. By the way, leave us a comment, whether you're viewing live or you're viewing Memorex. We're going to have to see the real-time solar wind here, as it's kind of important. Let's move on to Geospace Magnetosphere movies and see if that loads in the meantime. We've got some errors going on here also. At least we've got some data. And you can see the timestamps there in the upper right. Nothing too extraordinary going on there. About what you would expect to see. And let's see if that real-time solar wind loaded, and it indeed did not. Let's re-request. And I think we've got it. There we go. Excellent. And the real-time solar wind showing us a solar wind density at about 7 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind speed still elevated here, coming off of the highs, having reached up to around 630 just recently, actually. Perhaps the cause of the minor shutdowns we see. We also see a slight ramping up here of the temperature, which is interesting. I'm expecting to see this drop back down here as we see the coronal hole wind stream get a little more diffuse and a little bit less consistent in its speed. The current speed is around 575 kilometers a second. And here's the geoelectric field animation. This shouldn't be quite as charged up as it was yesterday. And typically we do see the main portions of the grid that are getting spiked in northern Minnesota and northern North Dakota. Some very interesting articles today, by the way, about a lot of different subjects. We'll get into it during the Smash Lights segment. And allow me to reappear. Ta-da! Here's 4 hours of ground magnetic perturbations, and we see significant magnetic perturbations here, caused by the induction of those solar protons, folks. And the GOES magnetometer is down for the count. Let's see if that loads. I think everything has returned to normal here at the Space Weather Prediction Center. And there you see more spiky readings on the GOES magnetometer. No surprises there, we've forecasted it. This could actually be a current sheet polarity boundary crossing right here. And we could be going back and forth, actually. But in any case, here's the Gong 2 data. And surprisingly, still not showing us in the South Pole current sheet, although we must certainly be there by now. There's the last image. And keep in mind that data's an hour and 46 minutes old. And if you're wondering where stereo A and B are, they're located right here. That data is derived from 51 ground-based magnetometers, part of the National Sunspot Observatory. Here's a line-of-sight field plot which shows you the B field. That's the one on which you live. That's in blue. And no major changes going on with that. It's quite symmetrical right now. And here's the coronal magnetic field plot. And this will show you open potential field force lines in black, closed potential field force lines in pink, and coronal hole potential field force lines in purple. And I'll let that speak for itself. And now I'll speak for the Smash Lights here at the Smash News Network. Now, we're the least busted name in news, as we're not really busted for very much at all, as I will not tell you a lie. I will just only tell you the truth, and that's the whole point of the Smash News Network. The Smash Lights section is part of the Daily Space Weather. Now, if you're wondering about the origins of the Daily Space Weather, let me explain. The Daily Space Weather's origins come from the data that I look at every day, because I'm interested in the physics of things like how the Earth's geomagnetic field is generated, how stars and planets form, if they form, and so on and so forth. So from a cosmology perspective, the data that I look at, especially when people make certain claims about whether it's Nibiru or whether it's about stuff that's actually scientifically plausible, I like to see if those claims are backed up by anything. And I like to see the way things relate to each other, like, understand the physics, that sort of thing. And last but not least, I needed to have the solar data projected on a large screen instead of one of these tiny little devices. So that's the origin of the Daily Space Weather videos. And I noticed that absolutely nobody at all is doing the same thing on the internet, and so hence the show was born. I saw a need for the Daily Space Weather videos, so I created them. And through doing that, I noticed there are all kinds of things that I'd prefer not to talk about, but I'm compelled to talk about because of various different intrusions, injustices, nonsense, lies, and propaganda on the internet, in government, in corporations, and not only in mainstream media, but also in YouTube. Now, if you enjoy the content, please take a moment to press like and subscribe on YouTube, as the video cannot continue until you folks press like and subscribe. You got to press the notification bell also, and then we'll get on to talking about more stuff, such as alt tech. Yeah. So if you want me to sit here and talk about different social media sites all day, just don't press like and subscribe, and we'll just get very, very angry. We will start the place on fire, and we're not putting out the fire. We didn't start the fire. It was always burning since my rage was spurning me on to say whatever the hell I want about whatever the hell I want. Now, we do stream live daily to Twitch. Again, if you want to see the content as it gets created, and we don't do every video here, we keep exclusive content on all different sites. We talk about COVID sometimes. Sometimes we even talk about how it's made in China. For you can... got him. Sometimes we talk about propaganda. Yes, yes. As there's lots of propaganda. Whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on BitChute, Gab, Twitter. We're not making any. We're speaking truth to non-truth. And yeah, I don't know what's happened to mankind. Apparently, your clicks are the only thing that needs to be baited. So enjoy the propaganda. We won't be propagating any. Enjoy the COVID. Oh yeah. Enjoy the COVID. If you'd like a souvenir, you can find some at smashamash.com or .org. You'll be redirected. Let's talk about smashamash.com/forum. There's a 30-page section about coronavirus. It's at smashamash.com/forum. And it's our biggest hitter, actually, the coronavirus section. Not surprising, it's got tens of thousands of views. And what we did is we created a timeline from January 23rd until mid-July, when I stopped covering it, because it became statistically irrelevant in mid-July. So I guess you could say it was novel, in the same way that the common cold is novel. And we put up various information there about all kinds of viruses. So, I mean, you know, the first thing I said about coronavirus is that it's not scary if you're healthy. And of course, that stands up like most things that I say. We even covered remdesivir on April 30th. So if you want to read about a nice timeline, and we didn't just link to the articles, we copy-pasted the bodies of the articles and all the links. So feel free to go have yourself a read if you'd like a real timeline. If you're sick of the propaganda and nonsense. Well, we were sick of the propaganda and nonsense even when Elon Musk was saying, what the F? We were definitely saying, what the F, over at smashamash.com/forum. That's in the free-for-all section. And let me talk about something not made in China. Something not made in China is our patrons. The patrons are the true source of funding to the content. As YouTube AdSense tries its hardest to pay us absolutely nothing. If you're not familiar with all of the different propagandistic effects caused by the Google junkware, Alphabet is the parent company of Google. And Google is a giant conglomerate which owns all kinds of things that you may not be aware of, such as Motorola. And I'm not going to get into it, but in any case, our patrons are the true source of funding for the content. Thanks to our patrons, consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/smashomash. We're going to be changing the tiers by the end of the year, probably eliminating the $1 and $2 tiers. So go check it out. There are currently 9. We'll probably keep 9 tiers, or perhaps we'll downgrade it to 7. Thanks again, patrons, the true source of funding for the content. Let's talk about how scary and spooky and scary. I'm just going to leave you there, COVID, because is it possible that COVID smells like flowers? Have you sniffed COVID? Have you sniffed COVID? Does it smell like flowers? Are you scared and spooked? Have you found yourself scared and spooked of the COVID? Let's talk about scary, spooky conversations. Oh my God, it's Eureka Alert. Eureka Alert's got some scary, spooky conversations going on. Turns out, conversation quickly spreads droplets inside buildings. Oh my God. Now I can definitely attest to this, as I have to clean off my monitor like every 2 weeks because I spit all over it. Look at the animation. Oh my God. Exhaled material. Were you aware that you live in a fluid Were you aware that air is a fluid? Oh my God, it looks like a coronal mass ejection, but it's a coronal mass ejection coming out of this guy's face! Oh, holy crap! That is spooky! Did you just find out in 2020 that life is risky? Did you just find out how to wash your hands in the year 2020? Did you not have any idea that there's a thing called antibiotic-resistant tuberculosis, which is the deadliest communicable disease on Earth? No? Oh, well, I'd be more than happy to inform you. And yes, if you're wondering if I'm an infectious disease expert, yes! The answer is yes. Because I started studying them by myself in the mid-90s when I kept getting strep throat and staph throat, which is part of the reason why I stopped smoking cigarettes. But in any case, the jet-like airflow quickly carries a spray of tiny droplets inside of buildings. Oh no, it makes me feel like the building could be on fire. Oh my God, it's so scary and spooky. Oh, the Smash News Network is burning and we're covered with coronavirus. Oh, allow me to put on my mask to protect my monitor. There we go, now you're all safe. Do I look like a complete idiot? Is my forehead made in China? China? If you're wondering about the presidential debate coverage, I didn't watch it, but I put it on DVR. And I will be covering it a little later in the day. Let's talk cosmology, which can be pretty scary and spooky as well. So welcome to the cosmology segment of the Smash Lights. What about earthquake lightning? Now, I can explain the mysterious luminescence phenomenon, and the explanation is very simple. When you pass electrical current through granite, I don't know why this doesn't, it's just sitting there spinning. When you pass electrical current through granite, the electrical current finds the path of least resistance. And so you'll see discharges coming out of these areas, but not out of the quartz, because electric current doesn't want to pass through quartz. The electrons go around the quartz, and they go through these paths of least resistance. When rocks get compressed, they're known to create lightning, and this is what causes it. It's caused by the electron flux of the rocks. So in any case, mysterious luminescence phenomenon is totally understood, as not all things are electric, but the interaction between the Earth's ionosphere and its crust certainly are. Lightning certainly is, and not all lightning looks like lightning. Sometimes you can have massive electron flux. In other words, the way that electricity propagates through quartz is non-existent, but the way that electricity propagates through sandstone is totally different than the way electricity propagates through granite and through other subsurface strata layers. Now, I'm not going to talk about the way Earth's geomagnetic field is generated in this cosmology segment, but in any case, mysterious luminescence phenomenon is caused by electron flux. And so, in any case, let's talk about magnetars, specifically magnetar PSRJ 1745-2900. Now, this thing orbits Sagittarius A star at only 1 light year. It could be the most powerful magnet in the galaxy. Now, of course, I would suggest that probably Sagittarius A star is a more powerful magnet than magnetar PSRJ 1745-2900. But, nonetheless, it is a close magnetar to Sagittarius A star. There you can see its location as well as a differently focused image. And so this one's in the news today, and the story is about dark matter, and I'm not going to bore you by talking about WIMPs and axions and stuff like that. But there's where it's located, right at the galactic core, only 1 light year from Sagittarius A star, which is the massive radio source at the core of the Milky Way galaxy. You'll see articles all about it talking about dark matter detectors. Now, some of us don't believe in dark matter. I was laughing and laughing and laughing about WIMPs, otherwise known as weakly interacting massive particles, as early as 1994. I became a legit physics nerd in 1992 when I took high school physics, and realized that I knew way more about it than I had any business knowing already, which led to some interesting conversations in physics and astronomy classes, to say the least. Anyway, radio astronomy is indeed the way of the future. I didn't believe teachers and professors who told me that back in the mid-90s, but hey, they're correct. Radio astronomy, it's the way to go. smAsho.com/forum is also the way to go. There's a whole cosmology forum there. You should totally check it out. smAsho.com/forum. It's part of the Smash News Network. By the way, we've been making merch, and now we're submitting merch ideas. Why? Because we're going to have an October contest. We're going to give away a free shirt. We haven't decided whether it's going to be only for Patreons or not. It may only be for patrons at patreon.com/smashomash, or it may be for everybody, or it may be only for certain Patreon tiers. I'm not sure yet. Were you aware that the sun is made of condensed matter and not plasma? That the plasma is on the surface of the sun, not on the interior of the sun? Were you aware? All right, well, we'll talk about it at a later time. By the way, if you follow us on Instagram, you may see exclusive content, such as this fantastic nature photo, or perhaps an image of our live premiere chats. For some reason, I couldn't add a moderator. Hey, Tim Casper, if you're watching, you are a moderator. Whether or not Google recognizes it, you are a monitor. By the way, don't forget to get outside, folks. Get out. Get out. As in, outside. It's good for you. Like our daily space weather videos. And here ends another episode of the Smash Lights. We hope you weren't too frightened. It is time to get back to space weather and calm your fears. And let's fade out Toccata and Fugue in D minor. Here's some more space data. And we are in an electron storm right now, folks. There's the 1 year graph of the electron flux. And you can see that last October, actually, we had very high levels of electron flux. And we're getting close to those levels once again, folks. And so we see major charging hazards here for satellites. Don't be surprised if you see various communications breakdowns, major GPS errors. And you may indeed see some power outages. It's tough to report on power outages because they mean the power's out and it's hard to inform you. But places like Ecuador have been recent victims of power outages from minor geomagnetic storms. There's a relativistic electron forecast, and the forecast is for even higher levels here. And you can see major storm levels here for a sustained period. We barely even got below the alert threshold in the past 24 hours. Just barely got to the alert threshold, which is 1,000 pulse flux units, if you're wondering. And all right, we got the total electron content here, and it's just not loading. Let's see if I can reload for you here, folks. Just bear with me here. As these are the dangers at the Smash News Network when you stream live. You must be agile. All right, in any case, there you go. And it's actually not all that anomalous here. Not too surprising. You see some serious gold-colored areas there. And in those regions, your GPS could be off by 1,000 miles. I mean, I've seen my GPS. If you follow me on Instagram, you see some crazy rides on there where I had an average speed of 10,000 miles per hour. Yeah, I'm pretty fast on the bike, folks. I don't know if you're aware or not. Pretty quick on the bike. Anyway, here's the ionosphere. This is just one slice of the air column. The last one was the whole air column. And the ionosphere is a little anomalous here, mainly on the sun side. Nothing too crazy, though. No major big charge up. Well, we got a big charge up, charge down happening there over the Western Pacific. A big charge up, charge down over the Western Pacific. In any case, There's the latest image. We now show you the whole day of ionosphere. And there's the current state of affairs at 8:15 Universal Time, at least as close as we can get. And we were doing the stream at 4:24. I like to use in-the-sky to make myself sky charts. Where will you be when Cygnus sets? When Deneb falls below the horizon in the northern hemisphere, where will you be? If you're up before dawn, you might see Venus, the third brightest object in the sky at magnitude -4.1. I like to use theplanetstoday.com to show our viewers where things like planets are located in the solar system. Please leave a comment if you have some kind of a forecast as to when the Jupiter-Saturn system is going to cause some kind of destruction, etc. In any case, there's where things are today on 9/30. There's where things will be on 10/7, October 7th, in 1 week. Earthquake rundown. Over the past 24, we did see a very deep quake near Fiji. It was at 485 kilometers depth. Some seismicity happening at the volcano Hawaii. By the way, that's the town of Volcano, which means it's not under Mauna Loa. It's under Kilauea, directly under Kilauea. Please leave a comment if that's Pu'u'o'o. I think that actually is Pu'u'o'o. Pu'u'o'o was the original site of the Kilauea eruption a couple of years ago. I believe that was 2018. Anyway, that quake was at a depth of 200 meters above sea level, a depth of -0.2 kilometers. Clearly magmatic in nature. And we're going to scroll up the list here. We've been seeing an earthquake drought, folks, and guess what happens with earthquake droughts? They end in large earthquakes. So we're seeing a major earthquake drought here. Here's a deep quake under Taiwan at 102 kilometers. And another deep quake coming in here about 3 hours ago at Timor-Leste. That's at 484 kilometers depth. If you are in these areas, especially, plan to be an asset, not a liability, in the event of a disaster. As we're seeing a major earthquake drought. So if you're in those regions, maybe know which building facades may fall down. Maybe have a bug-out bag. Maybe understand what will happen in the city if you're in a city. All that sort of stuff is legit prepping, folks. Next, we'll do volcanoes, since we're talking disasters. And Telika's back on the list. Semaru also. It's producing a 13,000-foot ash plume. And check it out, Telika. Telika erupted on the 27th of September. I don't know why it wasn't on the list then, but apparently there it was erupting. Sporadic explosions. Sangay has dissipated the ash. Explosive activity continues at Revenador. It's producing a 15,000-foot ash plume, and continuous emissions at Sabancaya are a reminder to not attempt to pole vault or tightrope the caldera. A guy did tightrope a caldera a little while ago. I think less than a year ago, actually. We covered it. Did you watch our daily space weather videos back then? What, no? Yeah. Practically nobody did. So cheers. We got some storm warnings on southern Alaska. And some, what are those? Are those gale warnings? Hurricane force wind warnings. I think those are gale warnings. I dislike this weather.gov map, if you're wondering. I would rather stare at my own test pattern. Thanks for tuning in to the Smash News Network. I think that looks better than the .gov websites. All right. And Indeed, those are gale warnings. So the entire East Coast perhaps producing some great surf. Oh man, I gotta get a wetsuit and a surfboard one of these days. Next, looking at nullschool.net, there are the jet streams of the eastern world. Notice how they're still blowing east to west over the western Pacific and the entire Indian Ocean. And here are the western world's jet streams, and check out this dip. A dip and a big crease in the jet stream right there, right over the Mississippi, basically. Let me turn that a little bit. That was just for you, Brett. That was just for you. Shout out to our African and European viewers. There are your water vapor maps. Shout out to our Far Eastern viewers and those from under. There are your water vapor maps. We got to move on with this video before it gets too long. Please leave a comment if that's what she said. And some cold air on the way from Canada, headed into the Great Lakes region, then eventually into the Mid-Atlantic states. And here's your host, me, Dan, aka smAsho, vanishing. That was water vapor maps for the Americas. Here are pressure maps. And we'll let this advance via the GFS forecast. There's an anomalous low there in the shallow Aleutians. It just moved north and then it moved northwest. North by northwest. Check out that low there in between Greenland and Canada. Yowzers, that's quite low. 28.4 millibars, I believe it says. Anyway, there's where we expect things to be in terms of pressure at noon tomorrow. And for you noobified viewers who don't know where I'm located, it's Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. And check out the lightning here over the Caribbean. I actually had to break out the lightning mapper here at NASA. Major lightning here over Cuba and the Caribbean. Check it out. Big time. We've got timestamps there. It's yet another value-added service here at the Smash News Network. And it mustn't like my zoom, folks. What is up with that? Why did I have a zoom? Why did I zoom? Anyway, here's the real-time lightning map, and there is significant lightning strike. Jeez. That is a major string of lightning. I'll actually let that play for a second because that is significant. There you go. There's your timestamps. Perfect. And we don't always show the lightning mapper. Perhaps we'll make it a regular feature. Leave a comment if you have an opinion. Don't be a hole. Don't be a hole. Please leave a comment if you viewed our that is a and that is a hole in the ground segments. And we've got some heavy rain, which is pushing its way out as we've got a high pressure system moving in like this. It's going to get drier and colder here in the mid-Atlantic states shortly. Here's what's going on in the cloud layer. And here's what's going on in the water vapor layer. And we see a major drying of the air over places like western Tennessee. Check it out. You're going to see the air suddenly dry up. That's what you call high pressure, folks. and vast swaths of the country, I'm sure, are very delighted to dry up. Areas such as those, and some major pressure gradients in those regions. If you're flying a plane over those pressure gradients, expect some turbulence. You may feel like you're on a bus on a dirt road. And hey, Smash team, thanks for tuning into the Smash News Network. Please don't forget to share the content in your social media. Tell your friends and foes, science noobs and science pros. We've got merch. Today's featured merch is the All Things Matter red girl shirt. And look for some future designs coming out soon. We may actually release one today. There are at least 2 designs in the works, and I can't tell you what they are, but you may be able to figure it out by going to smashamash.com/forum. And thanks for flying American Smashways. It's all part of the Smash News Network. And I would remind you to please keep your head and arms inside the Smash plane at all times, because we've got bonus features. Now check out our playlists after you're done watching this video, perhaps. It's at youtube.com/smashamash/playlists. I don't think we see any ombre. Those do not look like sunspot ready. Is there a new area of organization over there? A little bit. I don't think we see sunspots. No ombre. No ombre. Yes. Yes, I saw ombre earlier. So once again, thanks for tuning in. Stare at the sun. Don't drink it. If you do, don't drive. And may that solar wind be at your back and that government overreach stomped on.